So before I go any further, I do want to address the whole genetic engineering, genetic modification. They're two different terms. They do mean two different things. Genetic modification is officially means any changing of the genes of a plant by any outside sort of stimulus, and this can happen over thousands of years in the process of evolution, which in fact it has been since the early days when we went out as our caveman ancestors went out and planted whatever sort of plants, bean plants or whatever that they were growing, and some of the plants were really they had some really tasty beans, and some of them were just disgusting, and so they only kept the tasty ones and replanted those. And so over a process of many generations of plants, the plants are only going to grow the ones you want. And so we have, or rather they have, genetically altered the plant by simple process of evolution through selective breeding. And so genetic modification kind of officially means that, whereas genetic engineering is more of what I'm going to be talking about today, which is going in and cutting open the genes of a plant and altering them in a very short amount of time so that evolution is not really playing a huge part in it, it's all human interaction. Now, having said that, I'm going to completely forget about the distinction and probably use them both interchangeably. So when I'm saying GM, I almost certainly mean GE. And when people talk about it, they very rarely use GE when they mean they very rarely use GE when they actually mean GE. They say GM, and it's fine to do the same. The people who really get annoyed about this distinction are people who are very for genetic engineering of plants and get very angry when people talk about how we're not supposed to genetically modify them, because in fact we have been doing it for such a long time. Okay, so central dogma, which you have all written down and sort of comprehended, I hope. Like I was saying, if you want to change the end outcome of a plant, you want it to grow more, you want it to grow faster, you want it to have a certain flavor or a certain nutritional content, the easiest way to do it is to go back and change the original DNA of the plant. And this is actually a lot easier than it might sound, because one of the easiest ways to change a plant is to cut a plant leaf up and soak it in some bacteria that have the desired trait. And by process of fabulous, wonderful nature, the plant is going to acquire this trait as it heals in the bacteria stew, broth thing.
Soup.
Yeah, the soup, exactly, right. Going back to my earlier metaphor, the bacterial soup. Now, the difficulty in this is obviously getting the soup right, so that the plant will take it up and it will all work out. And that's where a lot of the scientific process comes into this. And once they have, over a long process of trial and error, worked it out to make the broth right, then really all you got to do is hire an enormous number of people to cut up leaves and soak them, and suddenly you've got all sorts of plants being mass-produced at an industrial level, which is now what's happening with all of that. So, yes, so we are manipulating the genes to create an overall change in trait. Okay, why would I do something like this? If I am a farmer or I am a business person, why would I care? Yes?
So you can make your corn crops like a lot bigger and grow faster.
Okay, so I can have increased crop yields.
To like anti-pesticides, so bugs or animals don't come and destroy your crops.
Exactly. I can't personally, but if I am somebody with intense scientific knowledge and the resources to do so, there have been genetic modifications of things like corn crops, so that they now contain a substance that is harmful to insects and pests, so that they will die upon eating it, which means that I can save an enormous amount of money on pesticide use, and I can also help the environment potentially because I'm using less of it, which pesticides can damage the ecosystem, and if I'm not using them, then there's not that damage. Other ideas? Somebody. Go out on a limb. It's okay if you're wrong. Yes?
Make them grow faster.
You can make them grow faster, which would save time, and time is money, right? Okay. So, yes, higher crop yields. So, like we were just saying, you can make them grow faster, you can make them grow more, you can make them grow taller, you can make them produce more. And so suddenly you have the same amount of food on less land or more food on the same amount of land that you've already got. And, there's potential here that you could, if you have the right plants and the right amount of land, you could end something like world hunger, because suddenly you don't need nearly as many plants to produce the amount of food that would solve this problem. Possible health benefits. You can genetically alter plants to contain higher levels of nutrients, to contain vitamins, minerals, all sorts of those supplements. So instead of perhaps having your vitamin pill in the morning, you wake up and you eat an apple. And it might taste a lot better than taking a vitamin pill, which might kind of taste kind of icky and have to wash down with water and all that other yucky hard work. Instead, you just eat an apple, and suddenly you might be healthier. There's a product currently in East Asia called golden rice, and it has an enriched vitamin A. It has much higher vitamin A content than normal rice, so that impoverished people in East Asia who eat a lot of rice, if they can supplement this into their diet, suddenly their vitamin A levels rise enormously, and they are healthier because of it. They have less health problems, perhaps living longer, etc. This one is kind of interesting, edible vaccines. Instead of going to the doctor, for those of you who are afraid of needles, perhaps in 10, 20 years you will just go to the doctor and eat a piece of spinach or eat a tomato or something. I think bananas are actually the current crop of choice to put those in. I'm not 100% certain on that, don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure. And so suddenly, you don't have the whole needle issue, sharing needles, all that other stuff. You just go to the grocery store and buy a vaccine banana or something, and suddenly you've been vaccinated. The converse of this is getting plants to grow your vaccines for you. So even if you can't perhaps get the vaccine from the plant, you can get the plants to grow the pharmaceutical that you want, harvest the plants in much larger quantities than you would be able to with just growing a normal pharmaceutical in the lab, purify, and you have a large quantity of the pharmaceutical for a cheaper price, which means that the medicine is more cheaply available for people who need it. And like I was saying a little earlier, environmental benefits. If you can make the plants resistant to the pests, then suddenly you have to use a lot less pesticide. And the same thing, if you can make them resistant to herbicides, then you have to use a lot less herbicide, and you have this environmental thing so that when you're planting a field, suddenly your ecosystem is not going to die because of all the adverse effects of using various chemical fertilizers on them, and you're saved both cost and environmental benefits. And the last one is, this one's kind of, it's a maybe. You might be able to make it taste better, or look better, or smell better by changing its characteristics. Period 4 had not heard of this, but I'm curious to know, have any of you heard of this, the grapple? Yes? Okay, good, I'm glad. They thought I was nuts or something last period. Yeah, why don't somebody tell me what it is? Who knows? Put some hands up, come on. Okay.
Isn't it like a hybrid between an apple and a grape?
Right. So my understanding of it is that it looks like an apple, it maybe even smells like an apple, and it has the texture of an apple, but it tastes like a grape. And this is kind of strange, because apples are not supposed to taste like grapes, they're supposed to taste like apples. But you can make them taste like a grape using genetic engineering, so you have this kind of cool product that maybe tastes better if you don't like the taste of apple, but you like the texture. I don't know. Some people have strange tastes. And the same goes for all sorts of various other things.